Good morning, everyone. This is my watch list for Tuesday, April 14th. So I want to start by saying that we have PPI, Producer Price Index, in an hour and 15 minutes at 8:30 a.m. Eastern. And this could potentially change this entire watch list. If there's a big reaction in an hour and 15 minutes and we see a big candle up or down, my watch list may change, but I still wanted to post this today so you guys know the levels that I'm watching and you kind of know the potential game plan off the gate. All right. So let's go ahead and start with SPY. What happened yesterday? We gapped down. I talked about this yesterday. And then we moved and actually reclaimed the 678. So 678 was a level I was looking to short. Did it work off the open? It did. I mean, you could see 678 failed all the way back down to 676.50, like $1.50 move. But then news came out, right? Iran said, all right, maybe we can give up our uranium. And the market ripped off of that news, right? So we reclaimed the previous session low, that's 678. And then from there, SPY ripped all the way back to 682 supply. And then it ripped through the 682 supply. And it just wound up squeezing shorts all day long, okay? So what could we watch for today? We could watch for a pullback into this previous supply for longs, right? We could watch for longs off 682. We could also watch for longs off of 678, which was the level I was looking for yesterday. Now, I still believe market is in a macro, bearish move, right? The market started selling here. This is where we were getting top heavy. And this looks like a dead cat bounce to me. Where does that change? Where does that theory change? Is if we break 690, right? 690 would be the head and shoulder, okay? So if you look at the daily chart here, right? We have head here, left shoulder here, and this could potentially be the right shoulder, right? But it's all about, do we stay below 690? If we stay below 690, then bearish trend can stay intact. If we reclaim 690, this honestly may go back to all-time highs, right? So the next few sessions are going to be very important as far as structure on the market, right? This could very well still be just a left head, shoulder, and a right shoulder forming right now, okay? But let's see what happens. I mean, obviously it's very news driven, very headline driven. We have PPI today. We could get a big move. Let's see. 690 is a level I will be watching off the open as well for rejects if we get there. But otherwise, we can look for those demand bounces, 682, 678, 674, the pre-market low from yesterday. Let's see what happens with PPI, and let's see what happens off the open, okay? QQQ, I actually caught a nice trade on this. It was like a 25% trade. It was off the 613, right? The same level. I shorted this like 3 times on Friday. 1, 2, 3. And I caught it again yesterday, right? I actually got in literally at the top of this candle right here, 612.80. And then it sold back down into 611. So $2 move off the 613 short. That was really nice. I actually thought this was going to be high of day and it was going to sell. But then the market just kept squeezing, right? It squeezed into the afternoon, into the close, okay? So what could we watch today? Again, it depends on CPI. It depends on, not CPI, PPI, right? It depends on PPI, but we could potentially watch for 613 hold, all right, bounce. If, let's say, PPI is very weak and the market opens back down here, we could look for a 613 failure, right? 613 failure all the way back down into that pre-market low from yesterday at 606, all right? So again, kind of depends on what happens with PPI, but there are different scenarios. 613 is the huge level, so we can play. That's our bias, right? Our bias is if are we above 613, we can look for longs. If we're below 613, we can look for shorts, okay? Moving into individuals, Apple, it's the same level I talked about. It's the same level I've been talking about for weeks, right? It's 262. We break above 262, we're going to get a nice move up. It was actually one of the weakest beta names yesterday. You see everything else was very green. Apple closed red. So, this needs to make a move. Otherwise, I'm not touching it. AMD, like I said, it's overextended on the daily. You see just too many green daily candles in a row. I'm not really interested in taking this above 250 at this point. But we could look for demand longs into 235. That was that gap fill level from back here, Friday, January 30th. If we pull back into 235, I like longs on AMD. Same thing with Amazon, right? Amazon also pretty overextended here. And it's moving into supply. I mean, look at all this supply from back here. 242, also up here, 246, 248. I would rather take this on a pullback. The 226 was the gap fill level. let's get a nice pullback into 226 and we can look for longs. I think a lot of bulls even are wanting a pullback so they can get longs with the proper risk reward, right? It's like hard to, what are you going to long up here into supply? The risk reward to the upside is just fading on individuals and on the market. So hopefully we get a nice pullback soon and we can take profit on our shorts and maybe bulls can step back in. But let's see what happens, right? Google, Meta, not watching anything. Netflix, I caught a nice trade on this last week, but it's getting very close to that big supply 106, which is the 200-day SMA. So not watching anything really on Netflix. NVDA, I was watching 190. It's already starting to break pre-market here. Yeah, it's already starting to break 190 in the pre-market session. I still like the level. Let's see what happens with PPI. We can either, take the break of 190, or we can take the failure of 190, depending on what happens with PPI, okay? But 190 breaks, it has room into this supply area up here, 194, all right, if it actually breaks and holds above 190. If 190 fails, then we can look for a move back into the pre-market lows yesterday at 185, okay? PLTR bounced off my big demand, right? Look at this, daily, 126, 125. I mentioned this level last week. It bounced and is holding off of that demand. All right, as long as this holds 125, it's bullish. But if we start selling through 125, I think this goes to 100 pretty fast. All right. And let's see, Tesla. Tesla was a nice move over 350 yesterday. Brett caught this. It's gapping up today, up 2%. You see it's gapping right into this 200. So let's see what happens here. I think Tesla's going to break to one side soon, but we could draw the downtrend, right? Draw the downtrend, and you can see it's getting close to that, right? 365 is the top of that little downtrend. So I'd be careful longing again. We also have supply here from Wednesday, right? The high of the session Wednesday is 365. So 365, watch, be careful longing into 365 because it's the top of this channel plus that supply from Wednesday, right? So I probably won't touch Tesla today, okay? I primarily want to see what happens with SPY and Qs. I mean, that's basically what I did yesterday. I sat on my hands all morning, kind of after the news came out. My bias yesterday was to the short side, and you actually could have caught the QQQ 610 reject off the open. I talked about this. It went from 610 all the way down to 608, right? It made a $2 move, but then that news came out, and the bias shifted, right? The bias shifted. And I did wind up catching this supply reject off of 613, but then we wound up reclaiming, okay? My bias is still short unless something changes that, right? If we reclaim levels on SPY, we break that head and shoulder and we invalidate it and we push in all-time highs, then okay, I'll switch my bias. But for now, as long as we are under 690 and we fail 690 today, then I still think that the market can turn back over. But let's see what happens with PPI. Let's see what happens off the open. Good luck today, and I'll see you all on live.